was pretty interested to find out where motion capture technology is right now. So I think the technology is changing at such a fast pace. It's really important to keep a finger on the pulse.
So I'm a musician and I work a lot with dancers. I'm a creative technologist as well, so I'm just interested in ways to interface with dancers and movement.
And I come from an acting background, stunt, stage combat, and newly motion capture. So it's just really interesting to see how my body moves and what that's like with capture.
I mean, like, this is the only one I've tried, so like I definitely have to go check out the other ones. But like so far, I'm like the space and like what you guys are doing here is like really amazing.
Always interested in the democratization of motion capture, and so I was really curious about how you all were using this. Also, obviously, as an artist in practice, I'm interested in how people are making art with these wonderful technologies.
Kind of show the tech, which I think this is because it's really hard to implement in your work if you don't know how it works. So now you say, oh, this is the thing I can do with this. Now it's very exciting. So I'm coming from a dance background, currently studying interaction design. So this is very much in the vein of the direction that I'm going in, but I am finding that I have a lot of resistance towards integrating certain technologies. I find it interesting and stimulating, but I don't know what it adds to the conversation. Sometimes I feel like it's more about what it's taking away. So I wanted to get a hands-on experience to kind of see if my mind would change.
I think the thing that was exciting for me was kind of the kind of low budget ad hoc element of it, and it was kind of the sensors are just kind of going in through like a USB thing, which makes it, which you're already doing, which is using it with like community groups and spaces and introducing it and doing that kind of low cost introduction to motion capture and that kind of stuff is really lovely. That was really exciting.
So we had these sensors that were strapped to our arms, our heads, our legs, torso, and then so once we'd calibrated, we did the T pose, the A pose, and then we interacted with kind of the things that were on screen. So I think there were sparkles at one point, there were just things to interact with, which personally that brought me out of my body going, oh, I am controlling this and very aware, like breathing wise too. That's amazing, I can interact with my world, and I think this is really magical.
I mean, obviously there's a lot to put on, but it's not that much either. I just find it, and it's so efficient, it's so effective when you look at it. It's like a little movement, and it's just the feedback you have, directly feedback on what you're doing.
I really enjoyed the visual component, and the various stages I thought were very clear as we progressed into, I'll call them different worlds or different parts of the moon or the galaxy or whatever that might be. So it's really gratifying.
So for the motion cap, I do feel like it was a bit straightforward, and in terms of what I expected, I got. But the one thing that I found interesting is if I'm thinking of, you know, practice as research and the kind of ways that you want to move and how that's different from how you would move just freeform in a studio versus being strapped up, where your body's movements are going to read differently and certain things the system will respond better towards. So I guess as I was doing it and observing that, I was thinking that could be an interesting experiment to see how the quality of my movement would change dancing through the mediation of this software.
We started doing drawing stuff, but it was like big ass, lots of shapes, and just constant. been nice to kind of find a way to kind of play with that in a way that you could, like tilt brush, properly draw it, but from that top-down perspective, have a little bit more control.
I don't want to minimize the situation by saying it was a pleasurable experience, but I think sometimes with tech can be very cumbersome. So for it to be a pleasurable experience, I think is a really positive thing, if that makes sense.
So I was like, great, I can interact with like my partner, interact with the world, and I think it just, yeah, it was sort of like a release, like a relief sort of feeling. I wasn't confined and worried, it was like, there's space to move.
I had a wonderful experience. I think moving through the world was very sort of user-friendly, but also was kind of able to get lost in it a little bit, which is really nice. I was telling Katie that it was the first time since I had hip surgery doing any movement, and so that was a really nice experience to be moving again, and even though I'm not feeling in my dancer body right now, just to explore and experiment and to kind of lose the self-editing that happens as a dancer, and to be able to just kind of be in the moment in the experience.
I think it definitely made me more aware of my body. So I'm quite used to like getting in the full suit and then going, okay, how I breathe is going to be shown on screen. It was really nice because I think with the game element, it took me out of that.
I am interested to see the different applications for this kind of technology because I know that it's growing and evolving, and I do think it's endless, but then, yeah, how to do it where it makes sense.
We saw a lot of stuff that they've done with kids, haven't we? But you see a lot of videos on Instagram of like old people doing like really small activities to get them mobile. It'd be really lovely to see that like with people who have less mobility and how much movement you can see within them with the little mobility that they have.
Even when it's a bit broken, you kind of want to fix it and you start to move your body where you can move it.
I think with the accelerated cost collapse of AI and kind of software and hardware updates that are rapidly increasing, I think the accessibility of high quality motion capture increasingly becomes more accessible. So,
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of accessibility. Anybody could get in that, have those sensors on, and they could be represented by different avatars. I think because it is for everyone, it doesn't limit anyone. So whether you're a dancer, musician, actor, whatever you are, you can bring that into the space.
Well, I think it's incredible from a community engagement perspective, of course. I think any time that we can introduce technology to young people in a way that's accessible makes more young people interested in going into those fields, which is obviously we have a vested interest in. Myself as an academic, I obviously want the next generation to come up and be interested in these things. So I think from a practical standpoint, that makes sense in terms of the progression of the field and form.
you know, in terms of the motion capture, I think you have to know your communities to understand how they would interact. Like definitely in my own worlds and work, I can see the relevance, and I think it's powerful.
You definitely weren't worried about what you look like because there's an avatar that represents you. So yeah, that's what made it quite accessible to, like me, I'm not a dancer. So.
I mean, I definitely see the value in it from an educational standpoint, and I think that a lot of people would respond well to seeing themselves mirrored, you know, seeing their actions kind of being produced visually. I think it's engaging, which I think accomplishes a lot in itself.
It's kind of like playing a game almost, but you don't realise how much you're moving until you come out and you're just, you know, really like, yeah, lots of exercise basically.
But I think even more so, I think there's just an element of play and fun and experiential and immersive art that is enjoyable for everyone. And so I think as the technologies get better, I think more and more things like this will come about. But I think we've been in a period for a while where things have been happening in a kind of a siloed way. So I would hope something like this would be more accessible in a museum or a gallery or, you know, something like that where more people could experience it. Because I think it's quite impactful.
Yeah, I was quite curious about the bird's eye view. It was interesting and think about space as well. You don't really think about space when you're a musician. It's very like internal. So
Cool.
I think definitely kind of pre-choreography, seeing where you're partner with multiple dancers. I think that's the other thing. If you have more than one person in the space, you could like replicate that, put them in, so you've got an idea of the space.
So I was just trying to like, because like the kind of interface kind of looked like Unity, so like I was very like, you know, familiar with kind of how to navigate it and everything, but like I was trying to like find like all the different kind of dancers in the scene, and then trying to play with the parameters of like, you know, the speed and like how many dancers you can have and all that, you know, and change different avatars, which is really fun.
I think definitely as like technology evolves, there's going to be more room for things like capturing the nuances of a human body. But for that was perfect in terms of you could see where all the joints connected, where your body would flow.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious to mess around with it, maybe with specific questions in mind. You know, now that I've kind of gotten a feel for it, I want to take a step back and really think about what it could add to my work. You know, I'm doing a lot of research on embodiment and in the physical plane, but then what does that transform into when we're talking about, you know, virtuality and how our bodies are moving in a virtual space. So I think because that's my area of interest, I will engage with it. I don't know that I'll be sold on it, but I think that's okay, and I think that I'll learn things through the research.
Like I really like changing the speed of the avatars, which like you can get of like a bit of like continuous move, and then like you can do like a slow motion as well. Like that part was really cool, and then like all the animations are really like, you can tell like it's very different from the ones that, you know, you can download online. It's like very smooth and like very like realistic.
like pre-mapping, virtual collaboration, I think, like just seeing where dancers would be in a space, for example, before I compose a piece, like that would be like quite interesting and maybe good for reference to have before I write music for a dance show.
I can see the possibility of, you know, having a real-time performance basically with Mocap, that if we're able to design the whole 3D space and then have my own avatar, and then I can be dancing or whatever, having facial expression, real time, and the audience can see like the comparison, because like that's like the whole thing I'm really interested in is identities, like digital identities and how we coexist and the interaction and relationship between us and the digital embodiment. So like that would be like really fascinating to know.
I think there's always room for improvement in that, but it's just the more that tech develops. But that was really fun, and I'd happily do that again, like anytime.
Just because of the way I'm seeing the industry grow, the more people you can kind of get playing with it, the better, and the more that's just going to help to kind of feed everything. So it's really lovely to see that being used.
Well, software goes like this, hardware goes like this. So there's often a gap between software and hardware, and the integrations in software technology is very, very far in advance, but the hardware is obviously expensive, it's time consuming, it updates slower.
Yeah, I can't really think of any improvements. I think it was quite smooth.
I think with each of these projects, they're all really important to kind of move the field forward. And whenever I think it's maybe you that got the funding for it, this is exactly what this type of R&D funding should be, happening. There's partnerships between artists and industry, and so it's really exciting. So well done in academic too, because I think sometimes you get a chunk of change and you don't know what's going to happen at the end, and it seems like there's some really interesting outcomes.